This video is dedicated to La. That's a very big name in history of running contacts. She was way before her time and won her first World Championships with 6 seconds and second one with 5 seconds of advantage. Something that was never done before or after, all thanks to her running contacts. She was trained to hit with front feet, since people made me believe judges look for front feet only, what is of course wrong. They look at the contact, not the feet, and can actually see rear feet hits even better as front feet hits. So that was first important change in running contacts training, going for rear feet that are actually much easier on dog's body. Another really important step since then is starting running contacts on just a mat. What makes the whole training process much easier, shorter and more user-friendly, since actual dog walk work is limited to minimum and you can teach it all with just the mat as just another trick. Super easy on your bodies and super easy to transfer to dog walk then. I'm really happy with results so far, and I have no doubts you will be too. In this first step, we are just helping them see that walking over the mat is good. We help them hit by handler position next to the mat, by reward placement, throwing them left and right from the mat, and by size of the mat. This mat is actually a doormat. It's 45 centimeters wide and 75 centimeters long, so it's very likely that she will hit it at this speed. When the dog is going slowly, the stride is pretty short and there are high chances that the dog will touch the mat of this size, so you have something to click and reward. So if it goes well, you can even add some handler motion at this point and also some slight angle by rewarding a bit to the side. So the dog really needs to look for the mat and adjust his line a bit if needed, as you can see in this video. As soon as they learn that touching the mat is good, you can also start with turns. So now we are rewarding in opposite direction as before, and the dog is turning on the mat for 180 degrees. Start with you sitting right next to it and then gradually move further and further away. Your criteria should be a reward for one rear foot in and jackpot for both rear feet in. I don't care about the direction for first few sessions, but then of course add left and right cues and help with the direction with my position as well, always having them turn towards me at first. When you want the turns away from you as well, help a lot with your body language. And then in next steps, you can of course slowly fade the body language so that eventually it's on a verbal only. For verbal only practice, start them between your legs first to make it easier, and then eventually also at your side, expecting them to turn away from you on a verbal only as well at this point. But for mat training as such, this is not such an important step, and you can proceed before you have directionals perfectly on verbal only. And yes, I'm using a tunnel behind the mat just to keep it in place, but it does make a great tunnel trap as well. Most common problem in this step is getting only front feet or only very shallow hits. What comes to rescue is good old 4-in trick, so shaping the dog to go into the box with all 4 feet. Start the normal way, so rewarding first for 1, then 2, then 3, then 4 feet in a box. First in the position, so the dog knows that's the place to be, using a box of about hog height and as long as the dog to start with. And once the dog is offering for inconsistently and directly, meaning without extra treats for 1, 2, 3 legs in, only rewarding all 4 in at that point, you can also start going smaller to challenge them further and make it harder to get all the 4 feet in, so they can really learn that all 4 feet in is the essential part of this trick. And once that part is mastered, you are all set to use it for turns on the mat. So put the mat into the box, and at this point don't reward in the position anymore, but reward out of the position, so out of the box, so the dog is moving fluently in and then out of the box to get a treat. Start with sides at hug height and then slowly cut them lower, and at the same time also work at distance, so sitting further and further away from the box, and then eventually standing and rewarding with a toy for even more speed. Make sure the box stays in place by either pegging it down or leaning it against the wall so it's not sliding from under your feet. Only reward for all 4 feet in a box, and stick to that criteria as you lower the sides further. With this next step, we are switching to a toy for more speed, and it actually also gave me better style in task case. The only problem is that this target turned out to be really slippery, so I only did this first session on it and then added a better anti-slip mat over this mat in order to assure better grip and prevent slipping. So far we only did turns towards me, so this is the first attempt with turns away from me with a toy, and I'm helping her with a toy positioned as shown here, in order to help her see that's an option too. So now I have additional mat over the doormat, and I have a beeping mat in between. It helps me mark the hits in a timely manner, but of course I still try to see the hits and reward appropriately. So jackpot for 2 rear feet or for 1 front foot and 1 rear foot, and a reward for 2 front feet. I'm still using my long mat here in order to help her succeed and have lots of things to jackpot and reward. But basically at this stage I'm mostly looking for full out running, good separation, good reach, and well, just efficient flat running and no problems with hitting the mat. So I don't expect her yet to try to hit, but I expect her to not try to avoid it. I use random starting spots right from the start and help with the size of the mat to get about 80% success rate. So some failures are definitely okay, but we certainly want to have lots to reward and jackpot. Note the way I'm rewarding, so with a toy for my hand, bending down enough that she can take it from my hand smoothly. Then I let her run out and come back on her own for playing. So there are no sudden stops and no jumping up on a toy, and is therefore as easy on their bodies as it gets. Also note how far ahead I am and that I'm actually running to encourage her to really extend and run straight and fast. Many handlers do a mistake of running too close to the dog, and therefore the dogs have their head turned into the handler, and of course the speed is not as it should be. So make sure to be well ahead and if needed, you can also drag a tug toy after you in order to encourage low head and good forward focus and chasing mode. We don't want any pouncing and airy running at this step. We really want them to really run. If the success rate is too low, meaning under 80%, help the dog more by either using a bigger mat, lining the dog up better in case they're running by the mat, more of step 1, adding speed more gradually as that, or by choosing a closer starting spot so that the strides are shorter and there are more chances the dog will hit. Do not try to help by setting the toy closer or staying close yourself and trying to lure them on the mat with a toy. That never works and actually gives wrong effect. So the dog running in less extension, looking at you and missing the mat. So let's see how a real running looks like. When training running contacts, it's really important to understand the running part as well and to know how your dog looks like when he's really running. So try to video your dog in situations when he's really running full out and then watch it in slow motion, super slow motion actually, or even better, frame by frame. We want flat, efficient running with back as parallel to the ground as possible at all times. If the line of the back is going too much up rather as forward, it means your dog is running airy and is losing power for going up instead of forward. So make sure to promote lower, flatter running with a dog like this. For that purpose, I like to do a lot of chasing of a toy on a string. So you can dose how fast it moves and make sure the dog really needs to work hard in order to catch that toy. Note that thrown toys will wait for the dog to get there, so they might get a bit bouncy and not really run flat out to get to a thrown toy that sooner or later becomes a static toy. So to avoid that problem, lots of chasing of a toy on a string is a really good exercise for any dog with tendency to get airy. The other element to look for is separation, so the distance between where the two rear feet hit the ground. The bigger this distance is, the more ground the dog will cover and the more likely he will be in the contact. And the third element is reach, so how far over front feet the hind feet land. This distance is usually similar to separation distance. This again adds to covering the ground and is also a sign that the dog is running fast. The dog that is not going so fast will land with hind feet very close to where front feet were. So, in short, hind feet separation is the distance between first and second hind foot as they hit the ground. Reach forward is the distance between the last front foot touching the ground and first rear foot touching the ground. One hit means all 4 feet touching the ground, and one stride means the distance between rear feet pushing off and front feet landing. Most large dogs have 4-strided dog walk, medium 5 strides, and small 6 strides. But of course, they should be able to adjust as needed. meaning not putting either front or rear feet down after the apex to shorten a stride. And of course, on collection turns, all of them need to add additional stride on the down ramp. If hind feet are together, it means the dog is either accelerating, decelerating, or is leaping. So definitely keep an eye on those elements when observing your dog run on flat, and then compare it with how your dog looks like in step 4. It should be pretty much the same. Also, understanding how they move will help you predict the hits better and therefore click the hits better. The best hits are well-centered and would be hits even if the stride was a little longer or a little shorter. Bad hits are the limit hits, so either just one rear foot at the very beginning or just one front foot at the very end of the contact. These hits shouldn't be rewarded because they are very unsafe hits. Before starting with soft turns, refresh sharp turns a little bit first. For soft turns, I use the same setup as for extension exits, just that I now use a shorter version of the mat, so I turned it the other way around, so now it's 45 centimeters long for her. It works well for turns because she needs to collect a little bit for turns anyway, so it's easier for her to aim for it. But on straight exits with a short mat, we still have lots of misses. So I just decided to leave it alone for now, focus on soft turns, and then lessen the angle gradually later on. With soft turns, it's basically my position that tells her to turn, but of course I'm also using the verbals. I'm using le and ra for soft turns versus left and right that I use for collection turns. I keep varying starting positions, I keep varying my position, and I also added some front and blind crosses here. For this step, you can start them in stay at various places with a tunnel like I do here with toe, or with a rep stand. Whatever works best for your dog, or just do a bit of everything. And you can have them run to you with a toy or foot, to static toy, to static foot, or to tunnel or obstacle with rewarding after that next obstacle. If the dog is hitting well on extreme turns, but is having troubles with soft turns, you can start with extreme turns, meaning starting and rewarding the dog at 6 o'clock at first, and then slowly lessen the angle so that next the toy is at 7 o'clock, then 8, 9, etc. 9 is already a soft turn, so from 9 o'clock on you are switching to your soft turns cues versus a hard turns cues. First, stay pretty much static so that the dog can focus on the mat. Then you can add handler movement, but still be somewhere behind and lateral. Do not distract the dog from the mat. And when this is going well, you can add more of a pull to the side with handler motion. Then you can add front crosses as well. And as you lessen the angle further, you can add blind crosses as well, and also crossing deer line, pushing on deer line. Another way to help them pay more attention to the mat is running back to the mat to reward and play on the mat, so they can learn that it's a really good place to be. More of a low-speed work with foot can really help as well, so you can always resort back to that if needed. In this step, I wanted to check if she recognizes her mat also at the end of a longer carpet. And well, it was absolutely no problem for her. After that first miss, she returned to her normal success rate that is pretty much 100% for soft and extreme turns. So this should be an easy step that you can actually as well skip and go directly to 2 dog walk planks setup. But if you do have a carpet, going forward in smaller steps is of course always better. If the dog is having problem transitioning to a new setup, go back to extreme turns and allow approaches as shown in this video first, because they make it look like just a mat. And then slowly start them further back the plank until they're running the whole plank with turns, and then of course you can also start with soft turns and finally straight exits. Actually, if needed, you can start with even more angle and start them in completely opposite direction, and then slowly move them around the clock so that they're eventually running the plank and turning at the end. This direction is easier because it really looks exactly like step 3 actually. Make sure to address all possible exits already on this setup, and of course focus on scenarios that are the hardest for your dog. For that, those were straight exits, so we worked on them systematically, starting from soft turns and then lessening the angle gradually towards straight exits. Just a note that on this short mat, even just one rear foot in is a jackpot, because there actually isn't really enough room to fit both in if the separation is good. Continue to vary starting spots, your position, and exits, focusing on whatever is most challenging for your dog. Now that they can do everything already, straight, soft, and extreme turns, it's time for the next setup. The best next setup are 2 dog walk planks safely attached together with the gap safely secured, and most importantly, edges really well secured as well. So just covering them won't do. You need to level them up, ideally by digging them in, but of course it's not possible on artificial turf, so this is next best thing. These are wooden pieces to level the edge. You can use sandbags the same way, again with a mat over them. And then, especially with a young dog, we'll do some familiarization with the planks, so some walking, some jogging over it, and also some tricks. Here I'm showing some ideas. You want the dog perfectly comfortable with the planks before making them run over them. If you can't make this setup work, you can go directly to a low dog walk or even full height dog walk. but then you will really need to backchain it very, very gradually. So if you have an option to do at least some sessions on low dog walk or even on 2 planks, definitely do so. So this is our first attempt at planks, and we started with turns because that's the easiest part for her. And since this went pretty well, I next tried straight exits as well. But it turned out this target was too small and actually made her try too hard to hit, giving me plenty of front feet hits and too much pouncing in order to hit that little target. So after this first try, I switched to much bigger target, basically covering the whole contact, in order to get front feet much higher up and get more rear feet in. So here I'm back chaining on this new setup and I'm getting much nicer hits. I'm jackpotting for rear feet in and give small reward only if only front feet are in. She still definitely has a preference for front feet and is pouncing a bit more as I would like, but that's much better already. The only problem is that when I moved her starting spot too far back, that was too far for getting full 4 hits in, so I again started to get lots of front feet. So instead of backchaining further, I chose to start her on the dog walk again and just focus on different exits a bit again. This is actually first time that we are doing different exits with tunnels. Up till now she was just running to me and got the ball right away, and now I'm asking for a tunnel first before rewarding. No major problems with that, and you can actually do that already sooner in the process with just a mat. I waited a bit longer because tunnels and jumps and sequences are all pretty new to her, much so far. But well, no major problems there, so that should be an easy step. These were all from no speed approaches. We only use speedy approaches for turns, but of course we still do here and there. Since her success rate continues to be close to 100%, I keep throwing various variables at her. These are our first tries with a static tool. No problems with that. She's actually running nicer and flatter this way. And since this is no problem, I'm here also varying starting spots, addressing everything from very close to not too far from the dog walk actually, because that still gives me too much front feet. And here it's the first time that I'm also trying a wrap approach and adding more handler motion. Also note that I keep changing the position of the jump to challenge her further. And while my plan was to fade the target more gradually and in the next step use a blue mat instead of a white one, then just the silver tape and then nothing at all, I wanted to try what happens without a target, and well, nothing happened actually. Her success rate stayed exactly the same and her hits stayed exactly the same. So this was just to show you that it's really easy to fade the target and you really don't need to rush with it. You can keep it for quite a while and focus on adding height first. But I decided to try everything else first because she's just 8 months. So I prefer to do everything else and add height at the very end. but the order is really not important actually, and you can go in whatever order is most convenient and easiest for you, based on equipment you have, based on the age of the dog, etc. So here is another setup option, showing it with To and sending her either straight to the tunnel or Le and Ra to the two jumps on the left and right. Rewarding from hand after the next obstacle. You can work on all those variables and setups already with just a mat. The reason why I went to 2 planks was mostly because I found it too hard to stabilize the mat enough on turf. For flat work, the options are pegging the mat down, a heavy doormat with anti-slip mat over it and beeping mat in between, or a rubber dogwalk skin that stays in place really nicely as well, as long as you don't use that slippery beeping mat under it. Whatever you use on a dogwalk, attach it safely, because it can be really dangerous if it slides from under your feet. You can also add beeping mat under it, but the beeping mats are a bit wider, so it's a bit dangerous. The dog missteps because of that, and it also moves to the side a bit on soft turns. And this is a fancier option, clicker mat, that attaches on really well with Velcro, and you can also record any sound you want it to make as the dog touches it. I keep varying things, so here we tried some different exits with pushes, pulls, blind crosses and front crosses, and well, mostly no problems with this either. Soft turns and extreme turns are still the easiest exits for her actually. Straight is a little bit harder, but still she's certainly trying hard. So in this session we added some height, as you can see, and we also tried some speedy approaches out of the tunnel. I mostly use this just for turns and soft turns, because I don't want to get too much flying on straight exits. But at this point I threw in some straight exits as well. And well, she's hitting nicely also with 3 hits on the planks. But in order to hit nicely with just 3 hits on speedy approaches, she is now trying to place the second hit right after the second apex. And in order to get there, she starts the plank higher and higher, almost missing or even missing the up contact. And I don't want that, so I switch back to closer approaches for now. So obviously the safest approach is a straight approach, and that's what we've been doing so far. But since not all approaches are completely straight, it's important that they know how to line up and enter safely. So in this session I started with second safest approaches that are actually extreme approaches that are safe because there is not much speed involved. The dog is coming from such an angle that she really needs to slow down and make that turn before entering the dog walk. So this is a very good lesson for them to line up and straighten up before entering dog walk. So start with approaches like this next after the straight approaches, And then you can add a bit more speed by moving the approach a bit to the side to challenge them further. But again, only do that on a really low planks. And just in order to work on more things at the same time, I also added a panel to work on obstacle discrimination at the same time, and to get her used to the idea of something there right next to the dog walk. Some dogs can be quite unpleasantly surprised if you add a tunnel to a dog walk later on in the process. So it's best to start right away. At this moment, of course, with the tunnel just next to the planks. You can even put it further away to start with, then make it closer, and later on, when the dog walk will be high enough for that, you can pull the tunnel slowly under the planks as well to get the dog used to it right from the start. Once the dog is taking the dog walk without the problem, despite the tunnel right there, make it harder by actually asking for a tunnel as well sometimes. Ta was a bit surprised at first, but then figured it out really quickly. So basically, I'm working on obstacle discrimination, angled approaches, and various exits all at the same time. Also note that I keep moving the starting jump so that what she sees after the jump changes a bit, and she really needs to look for that tunnel or dog walk. Okay, so now that we addressed pretty much everything already on the two planks setup, there is just one more thing left, adding height. And we can't add much height on two plank setup because the apex would get too pronounced. I added height once and that's it. Now I'm switching to 3 planks. The reason why I prefer 2 planks to start with is that it gives you more pronounced apex and teaches them right from the start how to stride that apex in order to hit with the next hit. In task videos here, it's pretty obvious that she knows that the best way to get the jackpot is try to hit with front feet right after the second apex. And that gives me great consistency and actually better hits as I'm now getting when I'm starting her on the dog walk. So in short, apex is your friend until it gets too pronounced, of course. Also, shorter setup means less running for both you and the dog and allows you both to focus more on the mat. The reason why my mat is set so high here is because this is my old dog walk that is so worn out that you can't see the colors anymore. The dog only sees black actually, and when I tried with the target lower, she was targeting that line with front feet because there was no line before that to target with front feet. So I again got too low hits and too many front feet. That's why I started the mat where the contacts start, so that she can as usually target that area with front feet, and then the rear feet are mostly nicely in as well. And of course, I still keep challenging her with different exits and also different approaches, avoiding only the very speedy ones for now. For every new height, I have a new smaller set of triangles to level the edge, and I always start with some back chaining and then quickly do the whole dog walk with all the possible variations on exits. I also changed to my shorter dog walk in this session, and change the location. So many variables changed. That's why I made it a bit easier using the beeping method that she really likes again. But she handled it without a problem, so I then tried without as well, and also no problem. To fit the toy, and the best first step towards it is using a static toy behind a low jump, so that the dog learns to look for the jump after expecting a toy after it. If your dog is not interested in static toys, you can build it up, first making it static for a very short time before releasing them. And then in next steps, we will make this delay between making the toy alive and then releasing the dog to a toy that is not alive anymore longer and longer until a static toy works just as well. I show the process very quickly here, but of course this can take several weeks. And the easiest next step are speed circles, as you can see here. So I still have the toy behind the same jump as usually, only that now I'm starting with another dog walk in the other direction first, sending her to the same object that I was using as a wrap on the approach when I was still doing just one dog walk to a static toy. She is ascending really well to that wrap because she is anticipating the dog walk after. So we were able to move on to next step of doing full circles between the two wraps really quickly. So basically what I'm doing in speed loops is to keep going for the good hits, stop and redo when the hit was not good. So here we had one that was an actual miss. It's not very usual for her, but this approach is pretty new and hard for her. So far on 3 planks, I only did no speed approaches, and then she was doing 5 strides. Now with a bit speedier approach, she started off with 5 strides, but then started to experiment some, and we got that one miss. And then she gets used to this new approach for her and switches to nice 4-stride hits. So for the best hits, I click and jackpot right away, even if it's after just one dog walk. Well, to be exact, I jackpot after the rep, not directly after the dog walk, as that could affect her forward drive. The whole idea behind speed circles is actually getting that forward drive and independence from handler position and a toy ahead. So basically at this point we want the dog to drive forward independently, and this is also the point when the dog is ready to put the dog walk in sequences. This is an easy step, and basically you just add some more things in between one and another dog walk. If you didn't fade the mat yet, it's definitely time to do it now. You can try to just remove it to see what happens, and if not good, put it back and then get different colors and go through variation of colors, getting closer and closer to contact color. Remember to keep challenging them with different approaches, different exits, and also different position of the tunnel next to the dog walk. For Ta, the tunnel next to the dog walk and under the up ramp was absolutely no problem, and height was never a problem for her either. So I really didn't expect problems with the tunnel under down ramp either, and actually just ran in that direction one day. And I have it on video, and you can see she got really surprised by the tunnel under the down ramp. and then starts to avoid putting feet on the place where she should in order to hit nicely. The turns were still good, and even soft turns weren't bad at all, but straight exits just not normal for her. So I decided to stop the session and check the video to see what's going on, and then I noticed this tunnel avoidance problem. From the video, it's pretty obvious she's actually trying hard and just not feeling comfortable with the tunnel under where she normally places her feet. So I ended up removing the tunnel and then putting it in all possible various positions before returning back to this position, meaning putting it more under the top plank or under the down ramp, but spreading it more, etc. And of course, with some practice, she got used to it and it's no problem anymore. But ever since, whenever I add something new, like the tunnel in a new position or more height or new dog walk, I know to first just walk her over, and then I start with no-speed approaches in combination with turns, and then I just go from there, proceeding to soft turns and then eventually straight exits also with speedier approaches, all in order to avoid any surprises. I'm happy to report that even though she's a bit on the clumsy side, we had 0 falls off the dog walk through that whole process. But as I said, I'm extra careful with anything new, and we still do tricks on the planks within our warm-up or cool-down. And I think all that together really helped her to understand how to do the dog walk safely. After dog walk is mastered, A-frame is super easy. Basically, it's for free, so I wait with it till the very end. I start with about 1.5 meter height and first try a couple of tries with foot so that the dog can see the new obstacle, test it out and see it's a bit different as the dog walk. I also tired her up a bit before this session so that she is not too excited, because the trickiest part of A-frame is that the dogs tend to fly the apex too much and then can land badly on the contact or even on the ground. That's why I make sure to not make the session too exciting, to keep it really low-key, use no-speed approaches right at the base of the A-frame, and use very little handler motion and no thrown toys. So I either reward with a toy from hand or send her to a curved tunnel after, but I never reward with a thrown toy to not make her too excited and fly too much. Once she settles into nice striding and hits, I add height to the A-frame again and also move the cone a bit further now that the A-frame is higher. And if that all goes well as well, we can add height again. It's on full height now, and I'm also doing all sorts of handling after the A-frame now. So pushes, pulls, blind crosses, front crosses, turns, straight, everything. The only thing I still avoid is racing her too hard and or too speedy approaches. But I do keep moving the cone back gradually as long as she's not flying, and then switch to normal rep approaches as well, avoiding only two speedy tunnel approaches for now until she gains more experience and knows exactly what is to be expected on that A-frame. Note that I included each and every try that we did in our first and only A-frame session. So yes, her hit rate was 100% and she had no problems with either of the exits. So for me, that's it now. No more training of the A-frame. We'll just include it in sequences now. Still occasionally reward the best ones, but mostly just continue with the sequence. I don't like to do too much A-frame training because first of all it's not needed and secondly it's quite hard on your bodies, harder as the dog walk. So I prefer to do all the work on a dog walk and then, well, then you get the A-frame for free. You can of course use the mat on A-frame for the first few sessions. The reason why I opted to go directly without is because I was expecting more of a pouncing behavior with the mat on. And we faded it on dog walk completely long time ago anyway, so I had a feeling that she doesn't really need it. And I might actually get a better style without. So it's perfectly okay to try both and then just go with whatever gives you better style. Tai is 13.5 months old in this video and we basically started with the A-frame just in order to be able to finish this DVD. But again, since we want to do more as that's perfectly okay for this age. Her hits here are all deep enough for A-frame. Only separation could be better, but as long as the dog is consistently and deeply enough in, I don't really worry about it too much and just let it be. I also don't worry about the striding too much, meaning that any striding that gets them in consistently and is safe is fine. And yes, one hit A-frame can be safe as well, and I don't mind it at all with long stridey dogs, as long of course as they keep it safe and they're doing it under control and look safe and balanced while doing so. So in short, there is a difference between one hit A-frame and unsafe flying heels over head performance. First is okay and second of course isn't because it's too hard on their bodies. If you are going just for running A-frame and not the dog walk, then of course the process is a bit longer and not just as easy. You still have to go through all the stages of flat work with the mat first, of course. And then the next step is a flat A-frame with mat on. But note that the mat for A-frame is placed higher as for dog walk because too low hits on A-frame are too hard on your shoulders when we get close to full height. So a bit higher is actually better for A-frame. In a flat A-frame stage, do everything as we did on just the mat, so various speedy approaches and also exits. And then once the apex gets more pronounced, they usually start to fly too much over the apex. So at this point, limit their approach speed and start them on the A-frame. First at the apex and then slowly move them further down to the base. And then from the base, keep moving them further, but only as you raise the A-frame. More height will again make the apex less tempting to fly. So you can keep adding speedier approaches as you are getting closer to full height. And you can also add more and more handler motion, but of course first start with pulls and front crosses and then blind crosses to encourage a bit of a collection before adding full handler motion and extension. All of course in order to avoid flying, adjusting as needed to keep it safe. So that's pretty much it now. As easy as that. The process usually takes from 3 to 6 months. The hardest part is usually flat work. It can take quite a while for the dog to really commit and focus on the mat regardless of what the handler is doing. But once the mat part is really well trained, the rest is usually really smooth and easy. Flat work can take a bit longer with some dogs, but it definitely helps when the dog understands shaping and has lots of experience on different tricks already. So that definitely helps. The mat training is, after all, just another trick. So definitely don't forget on tricks homework either. And well, now it's about time to start trialing as well. Just go through a little checklist to make sure that you addressed everything that the dog might see on a trial in training first. Try different positions and different colors and shapes of the tunnel, because if something is no problem, something else might still be a problem. Don't do dog walk as an isolated exercise only. Include it in sequences before starting the trial as well. Nothing ahead to drive to can be hard, even more so if there is a wall or a fence right after. It puts pressure and can make them shorten the stride, so make sure to test that before trialing. I like to try at least 3 different dog walks before starting the trial. Also try different setups, approaches and exits. And when already there, try the apron as well, of course. And now you're all set to trial. Have fun, and may your run contacts make you smile.